The car hummed. I wasn't driving. It was morning or afternoon. The city stretched out, a maze of light and shadow. The car stopped and two old friends of mine, a boy and a girl with whom I had lost contact, came inside the car to join me and seated next to me. I haven't seen them for a long time, and I thought we would never meet again. They started to chat. Their words washed over me, distant and unreal. It was as if they spoke a language I once knew but had forgotten. I felt a pang of sadness. Their conversation didn't interest me. I watched the buildings drift by, familiar yet strange, like faces in a dream. A wave of nausea washed over me. My insides felt twisted, a knot of unease. I wished I hadn't come. But why are they here with me? By any chance had we made an appointment? I don't remember so. Intuitively, I thought that maybe we met to go to one of those usual local civil protests that we used to participate in with enthusiasm in the past, but which have now made me tired.
In these protests, generally many beautiful words are said, but it's only fiction and a few facts.
Their words felt like echoes from another life, a life I was no longer a part of. Just tired, I mumbled, avoiding their gaze. To me, it felt like I was reliving a scene from a film that I already knew, and which I no longer wanted to be part of. The car stopped and left us in the center of the big city. I was right. We were joining the protest that was underway in that area of the city. But I didn't want to go. I had to find a way to get away from my former friends and that place. Suddenly, I looked down at my clothes. My trousers were inside out. I saw its washing label. How did that happen? A nervous laugh escaped my lips, a dry rasp in the silence. I felt a blush creep up my neck, burning with shame. My friends didn't seem to notice. They continued talking, their voices a dull drone. I felt out of place, wanting to disappear. I needed to go away, to breathe, to escape the suffocating awkwardness. "Are you all right?" the girl asked to me. "You seem a bit off," the boy stated. I answered, "Yeah, I just remembered I have to buy something from the Chinese shop, which is in the little street on our left." Going to that Chinese shop was the solution. I could have put my trousers on well in the dressing room, and that also would have been an excellent excuse to escape from the event.
Since you're going to the Chinese shop, can you also buy a pair of shoes for me? I need them, the boy asked me.
I hastily replied that I would buy the pair of shoes for him. I couldn't wait to get away from them. "Then join us later at the demonstration." The two old friends greeted me enthusiastically. I told them yes, but I was lying. After that, I would never, ever join them at the demonstration again. I greeted them and walked away, finally alone and free. Across the little street, many expensive clothes shop. A small Chinese shop stood beneath it, with its inviting red-colored windows and traditional lanterns. I felt a strange pull towards it. Without a word, I crossed the street, drawn to the red door like a moth to a flame. I needed to escape the awkward reunion, the feeling of being lost and out of place. Maybe inside I could find a moment of peace. I came in front of the door of the shop. I pushed to open the door. A bell chimed softly. The air inside was thick, with the scent of incense and old paper. Behind a cluttered counter stood a Chinese woman, the owner of this shop, her face etched with wisdom and time. She wore a simple long red dress and her hair was pulled back in a tight low bun. She smiled at me very gently as a welcome sign, then asked to me, "Good afternoon. Can I help you?" I answered, "No thanks, don't worry. I only need a pair of shoes. These." while I picked up the first black, trivial pair of shoes that crossed my gaze.
The shoes were just an excuse to enter the dressing room. I needed to go into the dressing room just to put my trousers back on the right side.
As I was about to enter the dressing room in front of me, and located at the back of the shop, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that there was a tall boy to my left. He was the lady owner's son. He was behind the cash register in the shop. He was looking down as if he was reading something, perhaps a book.
Out of shyness, I avoided turning to examine his features. But just as in dreams, without looking at him, I deduced that he was a very handsome, elegant young man.
He had wavy brown hair. He was ethnically Chinese, but strangely he had Western facial features.
I liked him. He was cute and mysterious. He looked like a crush of mine from a long time ago.
I entered inside the changing room. As soon as I entered the dressing room, the lady owner yelled at me to hurry up because it was closing time. It made me anxious because until 2 seconds before, when I entered this shop, it was only 5:30 p.m. I looked at my own reflection in the mirror of the changing room, and I noticed that the label at the waist wasn't visible much, and that I could easily cover it with my t-shirt, and that no one could notice that the trousers were worn inside out. I felt relieved that it wasn't noticeable. And at this point, since the shopkeepers were rushing me, I decided not to put the trousers back on the right side, but to leave them like that and only cover the washing label. So I immediately left the dressing room and put the shoes back on top of the display box. The Chinese lady and her beautiful son got mad at me even though I was only in there for 2 seconds, since I didn't even get dressed. I'm sorry that even the cute son was so rude to me. So I decided to leave the shop very, very quickly, because they were tormenting me for no real valid reason, since I was very fast in the changing room. I suddenly remembered that I also had to buy a pair of shoes for my old friend. But in a very careless and selfish way of mine, I decided that I wouldn't get them for him, and that I wouldn't even tell him. We'll never, ever see each other again anyway. I ran away from the shop, feeling a little disappointed by their behavior. When I left the shop door magically turned into my house door. I found myself on the floor of my apartment and took the elevator down. It seemed like I was running away from the 2 shop owners. While I was in the elevator, I noticed that I was holding a bag that I hadn't seen before, which contained some mozzarella and rice.
Wait.
I suddenly had a vision of what was happening in the shop. At the same moment that I was inside the elevator, inside the Chinese shop, the owner lady was desperate because she couldn't find her bag with the food to take to her mother-in-law's house, where their family was guests for lunch. Note that when I entered the shop, it was 5 or 6 in the afternoon. In the vision, which turned out to be a contemporary reality, she was telling her son that she was especially sorry for not finding the rice anymore, which she needed to thank her mother-in-law for her hospitality. Once the vision was over, I felt guilty and decided to give her back the rice bag, which I didn't know how it ended up in my hands. I did it reluctantly, because when mother and son would discover that I had also mistakenly taken their envelope, they could have got more angry with me. But I didn't care. This bag wasn't mine, and it wasn't right to keep it. I took the right decision to give it back to its owner. I took the elevator up to the store floor and rang the door expecting a scolding, which, however, surprisingly didn't arrive. The Chinese lady was very happy to see that I brought her the envelope and gave me a warm, toothy smile. Suddenly, the Chinese lady treated me as if I was her daughter-in-law. She said to me, "Our driver is waiting for us downstairs. He must take us to the house where we are guests for lunch. Come in the car with us, and our driver will take you home." I accepted. Shortly afterwards, I got in the car with them. I was sitting next to the driver. She and her son were seated behind us. The Chinese lady was seated exactly behind me. The son was in the center, and perhaps the lady's husband was sitting next to the son. After a while, the lady quickly changed her mind. At the end, she took me with them to her daughter-in-law's house instead of taking me home, because she felt like I was part of their family. My gesture of returning her the bag with rice made a very positive impression on her. In the car, I chatted a lot with them, especially with the lady. I don't remember what we talked about, but we were enthusiastic about the topic of the talk. As I continued to speak, then I turned towards them, and my gaze met the gaze of her handsome son. I expected him to give me a gruff look, like he had looked at me earlier inside the store. But that time, he gave me a truly beautiful and sweet smile. The way in which he smiled at me communicated to me this sense of family and belonging. That smile made me understand that, surprisingly, something romantic could arise between us, and that I could be reciprocated. I got that he also liked me back.